Forget reports about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's campaign money. You might want to worry about what she has planned for your money. Welcome, everyone. I'm Charles Payne in for Neil Cavuto, and this is Your World. New York Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the lawmaker behind the Green New Deal, is now co-sponsoring a bill that would impose a tax on most stock transactions. The move could raise hundreds of billions of dollars in new tax revenue. Fox Business Network's Deirdre Bolton, well, she's been doing some digging around. Deirdre, what did you find?
I certainly have been, Charles. Democratic Congressman from Oregon, Peter DeFazio, leading the charge against Wall Street, expected to introduce legislation this evening that would tax trades on stocks, bonds, derivatives. So it's not the first time that he has targeted Wall Street. He introduced a similar bill 2 years ago. Not too much pickup at the time. But now, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she is a lead co-sponsor of this bill, along with a dozen others. DeFazio wants to discourage high-frequency trading. This is the group that he says he is targeting. So in other words, he wants to avoid another flash crash. DeFazio also saying the money from the tax could go to more worthy causes. For example, the Joint Committee on Taxation estimates a financial transaction tax could help reduce the budget by adding $777 billion to the budget over a 10-year period. If the exact form of the proposed law were to pass, individual investors would have to pay 0.01%, so very slight, per transaction, but they still have to pay it all the same if it goes through, in their online brokerage account. So that means TD Ameritrade, Schwab, what have you. Individuals would not be taxed, an important distinction when putting money into 401k plans, but the companies that manage those, Charles, when they bought or sold securities for someone, they would be taxed. In theory, it would stay with the asset managers, but as we know, many skeptics say corporations always find a way to pass down costs to consumers. This is going to be one to follow this evening. Charles, back to you.
Absolutely. Deirdre, thank you very much. So this tax hike push comes at a time when many Democrats are pushing pricey policy. So are these tax hikes, are they needed or not? Let's ask Ryan Payne of Payne Capital Management, Democratic strategist David Morey, and GOP strategist Holly Turner. Holly, listen, you got to pay that $93 trillion tab one way. Maybe this is it.
Well, look, what's coming out of the Congressional Budget Office is, and this Joint Tax Committee is under that office. Look, they rarely get it right, so I predict that they're wrong. Additionally, what the Democrats are trying to do is change behavior, and whenever you're changing behavior, all of your predictions about how much revenue you're going to have are going to change because people are not going to be able to pay this. I mean, the margins that these traders have, and these high-frequency traders, they are slim margins. So it may seem like a small tax, but it's not. And the consumer is going to feel this. It is going to hit Main Street. It is going to hit farmers. It is going to hit every industry in the nation.
You know, David, I think that's a real legitimate concern. Most people don't know the history of the alternative minimum tax was just targeted at 13 people. There was an article in the newspaper, 13 folks didn't pay taxes, I think, way back in the 60s, and they put this tax out that now has become insidious, and it's wiped out millions of middle-class Americans over the years, and that's a legitimate fear, isn't it?
I think it is a legitimate fear, and this is what happens when you try and do a slice of reform. This is how the Democrats can lose in 2020. They can lurch hard left. To be fair, wage inequality and distribution is a gigantic issue, particularly in the 4 states that will probably decide the next presidency. That is Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Bernie Sanders almost rode to the nomination on that issue. Donald Trump rode to the White House largely on that issue. In addition, debt and deficits are out of control. The last 3 administrations have extrapolated that problem. But the Democrats can make a mistake by lurching far left, even though this bill, we're still getting details. I don't know that it's going to move that far through the Congress. This is what the UK, the Labour Party did in the UK after Thatcher won, the Democratic Party did after Reagan won. They lurched hard left. So if this is what the Democrats end up doing, and it's why Biden's potential entry into the race is so critical and so interesting.
Right. And of course, Ryan, again, this is just one of many policies, all that are designed to extract money out of the economy. But it really, ultimately, it seems that they all hurt the average American.
Well, I worry more about the unintended consequences. I mean, if you take out the high-frequency traders, that could take a lot of liquidity out of the markets. And, when there's a lot of volatility, no one complains about volatility on the upside, Charles, but they certainly complain about it on the downside.
Yeah, we're not worried about those, though, Ryan.
Yeah,
I'm talking about like pension funds, right? Retirement funds, those sort of things. No one talks about it. As long as you can slap, hey, Wall Street on these bills and say we're going after the fat cats. But ultimately, the problem, though, is the exposure the average American has and the true economic damage that can be done. Yeah,
and again, that could be another unintended consequence. I mean, it also depends on how much you trade in these 401ks and accounts like that. So I don't know if the impact's going to be that dramatic, but that could also be another unintended consequence as well there, Charles.
Well, Holly, there are a lot of these policies that are being floated around, and they all have one thing in common, extracting money out of the economy to apply to, what some are considering pie-in-the-sky policies or dreams like the Green New Deal.
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats they've chosen their talking points, and it is full-on socialism. That's how they think they're going to win in 2020. But they do not realize that capital is mobile, and capital will not stay here. Entrepreneurs will not stay in the United States if they are not appreciated. Americans are realizing the greatest economic prosperity that many have in their entire lifetimes right now, and they think that they can just tax that.
But there is resentment, Holly. You would admit there seems to be some form of resentment in this country, some sort of anxiety. People who are doing well still fret that, hey, you know what, the fat cats are doing substantially better than I am.
But I think the Democrats are throwing fuel on that fire. I think in the end, people are very happy. I mean, you look at polling numbers, people are very happy with the economy right now. They're happy to have a job. They have raises. Their taxes are lower. The tax returns are actually now larger than what we thought they were going to be. So, sure, people are always going to want what somebody else has. The grass is always greener. But in the end, they can go to bed at night. Their bills are paid. Their children are taken care of. They have food on the table. And that's what really matters.
Although, David, there are more and more mainstream Democrats, moderates from the past, even folks who were like, for instance, in the Clinton administration, who are saying, hey, these aren't the socialists like those socialists of old. These are a new breed of democratic socialists, and maybe we should embrace them.
Well, and I think Holly's uniting the Democratic Party when it's not. AOC is more of a pace car than a center of the party. That's, again, why Biden's going to get in. I think the nominee's eventually going to push for public-private partnerships, scale to markets, have a coalition bigger than the liberals, because how can you get anything done? Look at the Amazon deal, look at the Green New Deal. How could you get anything done without a public-private partnership, without a coalition bigger than the liberals, and without depending on government alone to get something done? So I think the Democrats are going to have to find the center. And with Trump, the center is missing right now.
All right. Well, let's leave it there, folks. Hey, the White House